we go. Now they can see us. My bad.
Have you
There we
remembered
go.
to press buttons now? Ugh. Are you speaking?
Thanks for that fart noise.
What fart noise? No idea what you mean.
It literally says it there, Ven's corner, exclamation mark fart, and then it was a very loud sudden fart that I didn't expect.
No, it wasn't me.
It says Ven's corner, I can see it. Everyone in chat can see it.
No, I was hacked. It's
Anyway,
fine.
yeah, sure. Yeah. So we're continuing with Legends and Lattes.
Would you like to give us a recap, Noah? Where we were
So-
up to? 'Cause I can't remember.
Viv is the main character, which is the orc. I can't remember. So I thought that this girl that's next to her, see, Jen says don't lie. I can't remember her name. It starts with a T, and I thought she was a tiefling, but she's a succubus. So we were both a bit shocked by that. We were like, oh.
Yeah, but that's going to be because of copyright stuff. Anyway,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Basically, Viv is an adventurer. She's done adventuring for about 20 years, and she's decided that she's tired of adventuring. She's got pains in her back. She's like, yo, I'm going to put my sword up, and I want to basically make a coffee shop. And this is basically, we've got to a bit where her coffee shop's practically built, and it was a lot of world building.
Yes, she does have the same. She has less personality right now than a coffee bean.
Yeah. But I'm hoping with that, I'm gonna just call her a tiefling because that's what she is practically. I'm hoping with the tiefling now in, there is, look, is
I
that?
didn't know that was the thing.
I didn't know that was a thing. I'm hoping with the tiefling in that there's going to be a bit more personality because so far the tieflings had the most personality.
Yes, in the chapter. that they've been in.
Yes.
In fact, actually, I'm just going to do something before you get your grubby little hands on it.
Me?
Yes.
What do you mean grubby little hands? My hands are clean.
Because-
Look how clean they are.
Because, right, you did something last time, and I'm not falling for it this time.
Oh, I know what you do. You check to see how many pages are in a chapter, right?
Oh, they're about to fucking say.
Yeah.
Right, well, you
Well,
can start
no,
off,
because it's. Oh, why do I have to start it? Okay, I'll start it off.
because I think I read the last chapter last time.
I think you did, yeah.
So,
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Stop. Fucking stay still.
Stop fucking, sure. No one's a fuck anyway. It's fine. Okay. So.
I mean, you're saying this to me, so realistically, that has. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Also, this is not related to this, but I've
Okay.
sent you something on the green thing, WhatsApp, because English is hard. A video to watch later.
Oh, me.
Yeah, I want to see your
Okay.
reaction to it. It's not a bad thing.
Okay, how long is the video?
It's 4 minutes. We'll do it afterwards.
Yeah, okay.
So,
okay.
or when we get a drink in a bit. I just want to see your reaction as a Trek fan.
Okay.
So.
That doesn't make me worried at all. Okay. So, once again, I'm gonna apologize for any words that I can't say, and I'll probably say a lot of things wrong, and Neil will then do his input of what the word actually says.
Yes, and then Google what it means in some cases.
Yeah, because we'll be like, what does that mean? Okay, so we're on chapter 6. You ready? Oh, I just
I'm
nearly bent
ready.
a page. I did it, you. Okay.
You should see what I've done to Nettle and Bone.
I don't want to look.
I didn't have my my page markers on me, so it's sort of crossed all the way through with fully top to bottom folded over pages. So like,
Please stop.
literally-
Pleneed stop dog.
literally
No.
doing that.
Don't do that. Okay, so you break spines and you dog ear the corners. You need help. In the most nicest way possible. I love you, but please stop.
I don't care.
See, Jen agrees.
I don't care.
Anyway, chapter 6.
Bugs are there to be abused.
No.
Take that as you will.
Anyway, Viv's
Come on,
like.
Daddy, rude.
What did you call me?
Just to get a reaction out of you right at the beginning. Off we go, Noah. Come on, baby boy. You can do this. Deep breaths. You can do it.
Oh my god. I hate you. I love you to bits. I absolutely fucking adore you, but goddamn.
Oh, no, you don't. You really don't hate me. Anyway, you're meant to be reading, yes?
Yep.
It starts with the word Vivs, if that helps.
I need you to shut up for a moment. Viv's lack of concern was vindicated, and Tandri, oh, that's what she's called, Tandri, did indeed turn up the following morning. Viv was wringing out her wet hair into the streets, a half-full bucket by her side. Oh, she'd reverted to camp bathing after discovering she disliked visiting the nearest bathhouse. She
I wonder if
coiled.
that's because it's not just a bathhouse.
I mean, I don't know what age rating is this book. It was pretty gory at the start.
Not really. I've read worse in kids' books.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I admit I see Game of Thrones as a kid's book, so I don't really. That's a joke.
She coiled up her hair and pinned it, then stood palming water off her face. I should have said it. Oh god, no. I should have said when we'd start, she said. Can't open yet, still waiting on a delivery. It seems there was plenty to do already, Tandri observed. She was just as severe and direct as the previous day, with none of her sensual sway that Viv had noted on in other succubi she'd met. Although admittedly, that was a vanishingly small number. Only the syrupy gloss of Tandri's hair and the sinuous lash of her tail hinted at anything but crisp efficiency.
So this suggests that as a succubus, she has a very specific specialization. If she is harsh and direct, involving leather and whips.
It does? Oh no.
Just saying.
Okay, I didn't know that. So,
no, I'm reading between the lines.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
nice pun there. Nice play.
I try.
Oh, said Viv. I'll need to know what I'll be doing. No time like the present. Right, well, I can't really show you the particulars until the equipment gets here, but the plan for today has to sort out some dishware. Oh my god, was to sort out some dishware and furnishing. I'm not much of a decorator, but I've got a few ideas. I was going to find a potter. Oh my god. And see about tables for the street, some chairs maybe. She waved vaguely. Some paintings. I thought this would be the easy part, but it's very fiddly. If I can make a suggestion, said Tandri. It didn't sound like a question. No shit. Viv made a be my guest gesture. That's what I assume it is.
That was like a flourishing bow before your betters.
Yeah, which I never do. Thune Market is today and tomorrow. And, oh my god, I hate this. Can you not read it?
Why is this so difficult? I fail to understand the complications.
I don't know. Thune Market is today and tomorrow, the same as every week. If you want to be thrifty about it and save a lot of needless wondering, oh my god, that's what I'd recommend. Willing to tour me around? It's your silver, said Tandri, and while her tone was as even as ever, Viv thought she caught the ghost of a smile. In Viv's experience, most of the non-martial folk she met stepped carefully in her presence, as though cringing from a blow that would never come. She enjoyed the succubus's frank disposition. Cal had an entirely different, species of that bluntness. She wondered again about the Scalvert stone and what it promised to draw to her. 8 words. Viv locked up and followed Tandri north of the high street to a long curving thoroughfare. Is that? Yeah, thoroughfare. Where many of the... That's totally what I said. Many of the tradesfolk clearly had permanent storefronts or workshops. She was surprised to note that it was near where she'd visited the locksmith when she first arrived. Most vendors had awnings, tables, and displays set up on the side street, and there was already a thickness mass of shoppers. That's a thickening mass of shoppers, my bad. They borrowed for a few hours past noon. Viv kept her eyes out for the items on the list, and Tandri deftly steered her away from some bad buys, noting subtle cracks in pottery or poor joints in ironwork. Without promoting or permission, she took over the process of negotiation, and Viv could see
Prompting.
That's totally what I said. What did I say?
Promoting.
Without prompting or permission, she took over the process of negotiation, and Viv could see that, despite how thoroughly she cloaked herself in natural clothing and poise, Tandri didn't trade on physical allure. at all. The
We're on page 3, guys.
The merchants responded to something. Why are you going to be mean? In the end...
Just observation.
Thanks for your observation.
You're welcome. Carry on.
In the end, Viv paid for a full set of clay plates, mugs, and cups and a pair of much larger copper kettles. She also secured a hefty box of pewter spoons and cutlery, a utensil hanger, a rug, 2 wrought iron tables with chairs to match, 5 wall lanterns, assorted cleaning supplies, and a scattering of pastoral paintings that Viv thought looked blurry, but Tandoori maintained were evocative.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. I'm just typing something, so I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, that's fine. In most cases, the succubus secured delivery as part of the deal, although Viv carried the box of cutlery and utensil hanger under the... This is the thing, though. It's like, it describes a lot that we don't need. You know what I mean? Just, they went out and they bought stuff. You know?
I don't know. It's about the vision of the coffee shop. I'm okay with it.
Okay. After dropping them off at the shop, Viv insisted on thanking Tandoori with a late lunch. Oh, it's a date. Oh. Joke. There was a Fey run... What?
What's one of them?
I don't know. I wouldn't know. It's been a while. There was a Fey run eatery, oh my god, on the high street that was only open during the day, and somehow it seemed appropriate at the moment. The day was warm and the smell of the river was strong. They sat at one of the tables in the street. Fey cuisine was known for its buttery breads and artful presentation, and while Viv wasn't normally particular about what she ate, she had to admit that she'd acquired a taste for it. So, she said as they waited on their meal, have you always lived here in Thun? No, replied Tandoori, poised in her seat. I've lived lots of places. The succubus then smoothly redirected. And you're clearly not the cosmopolitan sort. Why Thun? Viv thought about the ley lines, the real reason she'd chosen Thun, and figured that was thorny to explain. She settled on a thankful but less complicated response. Research, she said. Viv glanced ruefully down at herself. You wouldn't know it to look at me, but I do a lot of reading. Anyway, once I got it in my head to do this, I spent a lot of time in... Oh, that word that we can't pronounce. How did you pronounce...
Atheniums.
Athemonyms.
Atheniums.
Athemonyms.
Yeah.
Athemonyms. Athemonyms?
Is that like a pseudonym?
I don't know. At the library. Biblioplex. Talked to a lot of people, and that seemed the best place for plenty of reasons. Coffee, said Tandoori, quirking a small smile. Not tea, long-held dream, or just a change of pace. Viv explained her encounter with it in Azimuth. Azimuth.
You were close.
Ah, thank you.
Well, to be fair, you could be right, I could be right.
Well, it is what it is. A little more eloquently, there we go, than she'd managed with Cal. Tandoori looked thoughtful. Seems a far cry from what you might have done before. And what line of work do you assume I was in? Viv arched a brow. Tandoori looked stricken. You're right. That was stupid, especially... Viv snorted. I'm just baiting you. My hide's thicker than that. And for what it's worth, your assumption isn't wrong. You don't get this many scars farming. Tandoori gave her a searching look and then appeared to relax. Their food arrived, and once the face server left, Tandoori lifted her mug of weak beer. Well, to misplaced assumptions. Go on.
Stop you just for a second.
Go on.
On the comment that she has a thick hide, the artwork confirms this.
Oh, you can actually see the scars on her as well, I've just realised.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, sorry,
Okay.
Just completely unrelated.
No, it's fine. Cut in anytime you want, hon. Viv raised her own drink. I'll toast to that. As they ate, Viv continued. I think I'd been looking for a way out for years. Adventuring, fighting, hunting bounties. You're either bleeding yourself slow from 100 wounds or waiting on one death blow. But you get numb to the possibility of anything different. This was the first time something else made me feel a way I wanted to keep feeling. So here I am, and with some blood still in me. Tandoori nodded, but said nothing. Viv waited, thinking. Viv waited, thinking Tandoori might have something to say on her own behalf, but she quietly ate instead. Maybe another time. Still, it was a very pleasant meal. God. See how many pages are left.
There's only a few. There's only another 6 pages. Oh no, has somebody done the thing? Oh, Hope, you wonderful person.
Rude. When they returned to the shop, an enormous gnomish crate sat in the street out front, and waiting atop it, legs dangling, sat a sturdy dwarf Viv knew well. Rune! She cried. What in all the hells are you doing here? He leapt down and approached, tugging nervously at his braided mustache. Just making a delivery to an old friend, he said. Come here, you old stump. Old stump, what's Hope saying?
For the people calling me nice.
Oh, thanks.
And Jade Smug and Jade Evil.
Oh, emotes, got it.
Things.
Come here, you old stump, she said, opening her arms wide. His face broken in an expression of relief, and he embraced her. I have to say, wasn't sure you'd want to see me the way you left. She got down on one knee to bring their faces closest to level. I'm sorry about that. If I'd stopped to explain, tried to lay it all out, I thought I'd talk myself out of it. Wasn't fair to you or the others, but she shrugged helplessly. He searched her face, then nodded, what? Decisively?
There we go.
And clapped her on the shoulders. Well, you can tell us, now you're clear of it, true? Yeah, I can do that. Then she looked up at the crate. But the delivery? Ah, well, my brother kinda runs the carriage post out of Azimuth, whatever you want to call it. Saw your name, was curious, and let me know. I offered to ride security. Done it before, have to say, after seeing the crate, I'm fair burning to know what you're up to. His eyes flicked behind her. Oh, this is Tandri. She's working with me, Viv stood and made introductions. Tandri, this is Rune. We ran together for years, I guess. Until very recently. Pleased to meet you, said Rune. You hope. Likewise, well, you can't just stand in the street like this, said Viv. She unlocked the shop, then unbarred and opens the big doors. There we go. Rune, help me move this thing inside. Together they hauled it into the long table. Oh, onto, not into. Sorry, my bad. Nice. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bitch. Together they hauled it onto the long table. Tandri followed them, bemusingly. Alright, said Viv. You're curious? You want to do the honors? Don't mind if I do, Rune replied. He took the edge of the hatchet he kept on his belt and gently popped up the corners of the lid, and they slid it off. Inside, nestled amidst wood shavings, with a large silver box crowded with ornate pipework, gorgeous, whatever you want to call it, behind thick glass, a set of knobs and dials, and a pair of long-handled contraptions along the front. Viv, said Rune, who was standing on the bench to peer down into the crate. I haven't the faintest damned idea what that is. It's a coffee machine, mused Tandri out loud, isn't it? That's exactly what it is, said Viv. I think I'm busting... said Viv with great satisfaction. Coffee, said Rune. Is that what you were on about back in Azimuth? He shot a glance at Tandri. Couldn't stop bellaboring it. Bellaboring it?
It's probably another word for believing.
Okay. Couldn't Adam and Eve it? Could have said that instead, Jesus.
They're not Cockneys, though, are they?
That's true. Shut up.
Unless you want to do a Cockney voice all the way through.
Nope, I definitely cannot do that. Yep, Viv smiled. Well, what in the hell's are you planning to do with it? Asked Rune. Help me get it out of here and I'll tell you. I mean, obviously if someone buys a coffee machine, it's going to be like, oh, coffee? Coffee shop, right? No? Okay.
I mean, it's basically going to be a percolator, so you could probably use it to make better drugs.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. They shortly had it up on the countertop and the crate out in the street. Viv drew the big doors closed again. She wasn't interested in another unexpected visit from Lack, especially not right now. With Rune here, she might find it more difficult to rein in her desire to knock him bloody. A pamphlet was packed into the crate amongst the shavings. Tandri claimed it. Oh no, not climbed. Claimed it. And perused it while Viv and Rune chatted at the big table. After Viv explained her plans and what she'd done with the place, Rune gave the building a longer, more appreciative inspection. Whew, he said. Well, Viv, when you go at something, you don't go at it soft. Sorry. Can't say I understand how you plan to make it work, but you never ran into a fight without knowing how it was going to turn out. Guess I trust your good over mine. Not sure about that, said Viv, but I did my best not to leave too much to chance. Rune squinted at her when she said it and seemed like he might press for more. So, how's Galena? Asked Viv, hurrying past the uncomfortable potential of the topic. Can't say she wasn't stung, but you know her, tough as they come. Maybe still sore. But she'll be fine. You know, if you want me to say something, carry a letter maybe. I should write her, but I think I ought to take a little time to think about it. You all pass through, oh my god, Varian English. Really hard. Of course,
it's harder when it's made up names.
It is, because they should give you a guide of how they should say it in like brackets. For people like me.
I'm just checking there's not a pronunciation guide in the back.
Oh, don't even do that to me after this.
There's not. There's
okay.
Just the cookbook for thimblets.
We should try that. Course easiest route to most places. I'll send her something there after I figure out what to say. Tell her I'm sorry I left the way I did. Rune nodded, then drummed his hands on the table. And speaking of leaving, I ought to be getting on. Days are running down and a long way to go tomorrow, but before I do, he rummaged, oh my god, in a pouch at his belt and pulled out a small grey stone with 3 wavy stripes engraved on the side. Linkstone, said Viv. Yep, said Rune. I've got the match yep. I've got the match to it on me. I know you've set it up. Oh my god, I know you're set up here, but don't expect any problems. What? Wait, no, I know you're set up here, but don't expect any problems, but you ever get into trouble, things don't go the way they should, you toss this into a fire. I'll get the signal, I'll find you. Now I know where you are. It's going to be fine, Rune. Well, sure it is, but also maybe someday you find you need to get back out there. He held up his hand before she could protest. Not saying you will, not saying it's even likely, but better prepared, true? He took the stone even, from him. Better prepared, sure. It was the last thing she wanted, but he was doing her a kindness, and after she'd left them behind without explanation, the least she could do was graciously accept a friendly overture. Then I'll be like, why is English so hard? Then I'll be off, he said briskly. He rose and embraced her again. He made a short bow to Tandri, adding, a pleasure, miss. Biff saw him out. It was good to see you, Rune. Truly. Give Galena and Tavis my apologies. And Fennis. Rune grinned at her. A swift kick in the arse? She said. I'll see you. Take care, Viv. And he departed into the night. Nearly there. It's fine. I had to double check then. It's nearly your turn. I hope you suffer.
It's fine. You gave me the really... Will you stop it? The really long chapter last time, so...
That's true. That's true. Hey, Fez. Sorry about that. Viv returned to find Tandri still pursuing the gnomish booklet.
Now read it again.
Perusing.
There we go.
It is the fetus Nita. Perusing the gnomish booklet. Honestly, there's no need for you to be here this late. I lost track of time. Should have cut you loose an hour ago. The succubus looked up from her reading. After all this, I think I have to know how this works. I'm not sure I can stand to be in suspense overnight when it's sitting right here. She briefly touched the gleaming machine. It looked so modern and glossy. There on the counter, gnomish engineering really was a marvel. It wasn't exactly like the one Viv had seen in Azimuth, but close enough, and now that Rune had left, her excitement rose along with some queasy trepidation. Ooh. You already know how it works? Asked Tandri. For the most part, said Viv, who stared at it, her eyes roving over curving pipes and polished glass plates. Well, Tandri's expression had given way to something with more humour in it. Don't leave me on tenterhooks. What is that?
There we go.
Okay. Right. So, Viv located the small door from the front and flipped it open. An oil reservoir and wick. An oil. Yeah, I was right. Oil reservoir. Reservoir. Um. Yeah. And wick were just visible. She found a long sulphur match, struck it, and lit the wick, closing the door after. And water. She filled a kettle from the water barrel, opened another door along the top, and carefully decanted water into the whatever it's called. While she received a bag of beans from the storeroom, she heard a raising gentle hiss, and by the time she returned, the gouges, whatever you want to call it, along the front had begun to twitch. There was a clever grinding mechanism, at one end, and she poured a measure of beans into yet another compartment. She unlatched one of the long-handled devices from the front of the machine and slotted it in below the grinder. Once the right-hand gauge! That's the word I've been trying to say. Crept into the blue section on its face and flipped a lever, and a rumbling whine sounding as the beans were grounded and packed tightly into the scoop of the handle. This one's safe. Yeah, they did hope. Can you pass me one of those mugs? Tandri obliged, watching the whole process with interest. Now, for the final bit, said Viv, reseating the scoop in its original location, placing the mug beneath, and flickering another lever. A louder, sharp hissing, a gurgle, and the machine thrummed as water surged through the silver pipework. After several seconds of increased noise, a steady trickle of brown liquid poured into the mug below. Viv waited a bit too long to cut the switch, but she could tell immediately that she'd mostly done it correctly. The smell that rose from the mug was rich and warm and nutty and perfect. She brought it to her nose, closed her eyes, and inhaled deeply. Gods, yes, that's it. Relief and elation surged through Viv in equal measure. I really like it this way, but for a first-timer, Viv held the mug under another sprout and pressed the trigger along the top, and hot water burbled into the cup until it was nearly full. Turned carefully to Tandri and held the mug out. Here, go on. Careful though, it's hot. Tandri gravely took the mug and held it in both hands.
Tentatively.
Thank you, sniffing at it. She brought the brim to her lips, blew in it for several seconds, and then took a very cautious sip. A long pause. Oh, said Tandri. Oh my. Viv grinned. This just might work. Okay, it's your turn now. Chapter 7's yours.
Did you have fun then, Noah?
When it got to the coffee bit, yeah. I really want a coffee.
I've just had one. This is not going to go well, but hey-ho. When Cal next appeared with his tools, Viv proudly displayed the gnomish coffee machine. Your favourite race, Noah. The one that you are a part of, the gnomes.
No.
Gnome. The hob was inspecting it with interest, thumbs tucked into his belt when Tandri appeared. Viv made the introductions. Charmed, said Cal, executing a deep bow. It's nice work, said Tandri, gesturing to the interior. I remember what it used to look like. The hob puffed up a little bit at that, and Viv was sure she saw him struggling not to smile, but he only nodded and said inevitably, Deliveries from the previous day's excursions began to arrive and continued piecemeal over the balance of the day. Cal hung the wall lanterns while Tandri and Viv uncrated and shelved the dishware, rolling out the rugs and arranging the tables and chairs out under the front windows. Mid-afternoon, Cal excused himself to run a little errand. He returned a while later, struggling with the awkward bulk of a wooden signboard. Breathing heavily, he set it down with the front facing away and drummed his fingers anxiously across its top. So, he said, I should have asked, but seemed you were undecided. And nothing hanging yet, and after thinking it over, I thought, well, Viv could swear his cheeks were flushing red. Oh gods, he huffed and spun it around for her to see. The sign was in the shape of a kite shield, and the surface was rooted out to leave two words embossed in a diagonal script with a sword whose profile she recognized dividing them. You don't have to use it, of course. It was just a thought, and I had some idle time, and I figured, well, you need a sign. Can't have people thinking it's still a livery, he said in a strained voice. The sign read Legends and Lattes.
Wait. Hope says,
What?
which cheeks? Fez, I would do the same, Hope, because it's either a blush or a violent spanking.
Yeah, I'm deliberately not looking at the chat when I'm reading, so I don't do a you.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Cal, Viv discovered her throat was a little thick. It's perfect. Well, he said, and then thrust it at her with both hands. Stop it, Noah. Andrew nodded thoughtfully. Very memorable. What's a latte? Bean water with milk, said Cal in a stage
I
whisper,
forgot about that whole
peering
bean
around the
thing.
edge.
I forgot about the whole bean conversation they had in the chapters before.
Bean and milk.
Yeah.
No more words.
Mm.
Tandri made a face. Viv laughed and took the sign, holding it up to admire. Just for that, I'm going to make you a proper latte, and you're going to drink it. I've got a fresh jug of milk in the cold box, and I was practicing this morning. Let's hang that sign first. Viv was tall enough standing on a chair. No. Was tall enough that standing on a chair brought her in reach of the iron sign arm, and she looped the eye hooks over the spikes. Cal had clearly measured in advance. They all stood back and admired it. One good turn deserves another. How about that milky bean water? Asked Viv, grinning at Cal. He made a show of grumbling about it, but watched avidly as Viv demonstrated the entire process, finally frothing the milk under a silver spout that jetted steam. When she poured foam into the mug and placed it before him, he eyed it and her, and after gingerly blowing on it, he took a sip. His eyes widened. Well, shit. Milky bean water? I'll be damned. He took another longer sip and burned his tongue. Oh, I don't have to do that. It's fine. This is Noah's channel. This I have to try, said Tandri. Cal gave it over while he whistled through his scalded mouth. After a careful sip and a closed-eye evaluation, Tandri pronounced it excellent. There are gnomes in Thune. Why are they not serving this? She asked in a tone of wonder. Who knows? But I'd as soon they didn't start, replied Viv. At least let me get a foothold first. Cheers to that, said Tandri, taking a longer drink. Her tail snapped, a pleased whip-crack motion. I'll have that back, thank you, said Cal, waggling his hand for it. Ain't you supposed to learn to make him anyway? I've read the book that was packed in, but there is some kind of art to it, she replied as she handed over the mug. Come on around here, I'll show you, said Viv. She was smiling, and for the first time, the building, the city, this place, felt like hers. A place she'd still be tomorrow, the week after, next season, next year, home. So, opening tomorrow, you said? Asked Tandri as they all sat together at one of the outdoor tables, sipping their respective drinks. I hope so, said Viv. Not really sure what to expect, though, if I'm honest. I'm nervous about it. Feels like there's something else I should be doing to prepare, but I don't know what that is. So I figure I should just get in there and get blooded and sort it out as we go. Well, ideally there won't be any blood, said Tandri with a wry smile. But do you really expect folks to just show up at your door? Are you going to advertise? Advertise? Put the word out. Signs, hire a crier to let people know you're open. Viv was taken aback. I'd never thought about it. For someone who has planned this as thoroughly as you have, I'm a little surprised by that, said Tandri. Viv felt both complimented and chastened at the same time. I just stumbled across the cafe in Azimuth. I figured it might be the same here. There were customers, though. Sure. That's advertising by itself. You saw people buying repeat business. It lets you know it was worth investigating. You seem to know a lot more about this than I do. Well, what do you suggest? Tandri thought about this before answering. Viv liked that about her.
Oh,
The romance is beginning. No harm in opening. We can find our sea legs. The problem I see is that even if you tell the city what you're selling, nobody knows what it really is. The same as Cal and I. Cal nodded. So, Tandri continued, maybe we need to educate them. Let me think on it. Tomorrow, a dry run, but frankly, I won't expect much. I don't want you to be disappointed. Viv furrowed her brow. God, I hate the letter R. After both of your reactions, I guess I didn't figure it would be such a hill to climb. I don't think you should be concerned yet, said Tandri. I've got lost. There we are. Briefly touching her hand, I just think we should keep expectations in check. Viv was ruminating on that. She was startled by another voice. Well, miss, seems you're settled right on it. Lainey grinned at them, her face like a withered apple. Lainey, said Viv, I guess I have. Can't take a figure what you about here, but this place looks a treat. She squinted up at the sign. Nope, not a clue. She brightened and placed a dish on the table and a dark round loaf on it. Seems you're celebrating. Though, and today's my baking day. Oh, thank you, stammered Viv, introducing Cal and Tandri, and Lainey nodded and flapped her hands at them. Arms, Jesus. Can I get you a chair? She's really a kanku. Can I get you a chair and a drink? Viv held her mug up. I can show you what I'm doing here. Lainey made a big show of peering into the mug and sniffing deeply, but she flapped her hands again. Oh, no need. My stomach don't appreciate anything new these days. You all enjoy that and bring the plate by tomorrow. She toddled back across the street. Viv retrieved cutlery, sawed at what they surmised was a fig cake, and they all took experimental bites. They each sat chewing for an extremely long time, laboriously swallowed, mumbled, vaguely appreciative words, and after a shared glance, burst into laughter, agreeing that the whole thing was wholly inedible. They sat and chatted a little longer, and then Cal finished his drink. Seeing as how you're all set up, and I'm paid up, he said, looking down at the table. Suppose the work's done, as far as that goes. Plenty to be getting on with down at the docks, of course. Well, I hope you'll come by, said Viv. It was hard to keep the disappointment out of her voice. She'd gotten used to having him around. You stop in, and you'll have a coffee whenever you want it. I hope you do. Might just do that. The need arises, he said. Viv thrust her hand at him. Don't be a stranger, Cal. He returned the shake, his hand swallowed by hers. You neither, Viv. Been good work. Somehow from him, the words were touching. It was good to meet you, Cal, said Tandri. And then with a nod and another small bow to both of them, he left. Viv's heart broke a little to see him go.
Aw. Just
While
so...
Tandri...
Sorry, I was just going to tell Jordo the pictures. So obviously the book is Legends and Lattes, but Viv is the orc and Tandri is technically a
Succubus.
well, she's a succubus, but we know she's a tiefling.
Well, we're assuming.
Yeah.
You know. While Tandri rolled up her sleeves and cleaned the mugs in the wash bucket and set them out to dry, Viv went into the pantry and retrieved a long holly garland she'd bought when she'd gone for jugs of milk that morning. For a long moment she stared at black blood where it was mounted on the wall, and then twined the garland from end to end and stood back, eyeing it critically. Jesus Christ. Critically. It looks nice, said Tandri, drying her hands and startling Viv out of her reverie. I just thought... I don't know what I thought. Before, you could have picked it up and swung it at any moment, said Tandri. It was a weapon. She gave Viv a thoughtful look. Now, it's a relic. Fucking hell, I know that feeling. A decoration, something from before. Viv nodded. Suppose you're right. Tandri gave her a little smile that was almost a smirk. I usually am. Something you'll eventually come to terms with. Well, you'll excuse me if I hope you're wrong about tomorrow. If I am right, don't take it personally. Viv snorted. I'll try not to, but she was still worried. While Tandri tidied up, Viv went to the dining area and the Scalvert Stone's resting place. She tapped the flagstone with her foot 3 times for luck, and then withdrew a much-thumbed scrap of parchment from her pocket. Well, nigh to Thormic line, the Scalvert Stone afire, draws the ring of fortune, aspect of heart's desire. I'll be leaving now, said Tandri, coming into the room and startling her again. Viv hurriedly stuffed the scrap back into her breeches as the woman gave her a puzzled look. Great. Sure, I'll see you tomorrow. Suppose I should try to sleep, but I honestly don't think I can. I'm sure. At a sudden clatter and thump, they both turned towards the front of the shop. Viv ducked her head out the door. Lady's plate still sat on the wrought iron table, but the neglected fig cake, which had been nearly whole, was missing. Tandri joined her at the door and hummed. What in the 8 hells? Said Viv. Well, whoever made off with it, said Tandri, I feel very, very sorry for them.
No hope. Hyman.
You mean?
What do you think of that chapter so far?
I think she's still got no personality.
I have to agree. I'm hoping we get something.
I mean, by chapter 26, she's sleeping in Tandri's room. So
wait, how 26?
That's a distance in. I've just randomly opened it at a different
Wait,
page.
chapter 26? There's no chapter 26.
No, I'm just saying by chapter 26.
Oh, there is
I've
a
literally
26.
Yes, I randomly opened.
That's a lot of pages to get through before we get some romance.
I mean, I'm not desperate for romance.
I am.
In
I'm gagging for it.
I mean, you could have read The Crow.
No, that's tomorrow.
Is it now?
It is.
Okay, I will. I'm not reading that with you.
No, but you can be here as moral support.
We'll see.
Okay, sweet.
We'll see.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to read The Crow.
No,
I can find you something else.
Oh my, what? The Crow? No, I think people would appreciate The Crow with the eggs.
I mean, possibly. Really should have read the
sorry,
Easter
my
Bunny
bad.
one.
Oops, sorry, I just pressed something then. No, I'm not reading the Easter one. It's fine. No. That's where I draw it. Okay.
Or you do your Chuck Tingle book.
Could do that actually. I do have my Kindle slotted out now.
Hey.
Tandri was not wrong. The following day, Legends and Lattes opened to receive customers for the first time. Oh my god, English. Viv props the big livery. Livery. Okay, doors
Livery.
wide. Hung a sign that read open from a peg on the wall next to the window and waited nervously behind the counter. England is a hard language. Not one.
Sorry, England is a hard
It
language.
is. That's what Hope said, and I'm agreeing.
All right. Okay. It's a thing.
Not one customer appeared. Viv could admit that it really wasn't surprising. After all, her thoughtful planning, research, and preparation, she hadn't taken into account the most important thing. Who showed up to buy something they didn't know they needed? Tandri had seen the problem immediately. Why hadn't she? Tandri arrived with a leather folio, tucked under one arm, but she made no mention of it and stowed it beneath the counter. The succubus took up a station behind the machine and made a pair of drinks. A bit of quiet makes a good opportunity to practice. She clearly paid attention to Viv's demonstration. Her first attempt was a little bitter, and the second came out a touch watery. Still, they were drinkable, and Viv found the aroma.
Eminently.
And Viv found the aroma calming. The air breezing in the door was moist and cool, and enticing curls of steam rose from their mugs. Everything was in place, closer to plan than she could have hoped, except there was nothing whatsoever to do. Viv spent the first hours pacing like a penned predator. Cal made a brief appearance, drinking a coffee while loudly commenting its flavour, as though there was anyone to overhear.
Doing what to the flavour? That's not the tea.
Commending its flavour.
There we go.
Fuck. Thank you. Moist, exactly. Its flavour, as though there was anyone to overhear him, until he eventually excused himself with a pained smile. They did, however, receive one
I can't hear it, but you said moist, so I'm hoping it had that.
It was very wet sounding, and I need to set it so people can see the commands people are doing, because it's not me making the farts, it's you doing commands for the sound effects, and that one was really long and wet. Thank you.
We can't hear it.
Yeah, I can.
No, maybe we can actually, because I've got the stream muted.
They did, however, receive one unexpected visitor. Mid-morning, Lainey tottered across the street. "Morning, dear," she said brightly. "Reckon I should see what all the fuss is about," although fuss was clearly thin on the ground. "Let me have one of those. Let me have one of those. How much?" She waved a hand at the coffee machine. Viv thought about the slate menu at the pub she visited and cursed herself for failing to think of something similar. Half copper for coffee, that's plain. A copper for a latte, that's one with milk. I thought with your stomach. Viv rubbed her own. Lainey fussed in a pocket of her voluptuous dress and slid a copper into the counter. Tangerine voluptuous.
It doesn't say
voluminous words. I don't want to. I'm moving on from that word. Okay, I can see you giggling.
Voluminous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Again, this was your idea.
This was my idea. I should have just gone to the smut book instead.
There's one coming out called Wed the Ark, just on a side point.
Oh, I want that.
By the same person who wrote Crow.
Oh no. Not by Jenica Snow, is it?
No.
Okay.
This is yeah, this is Layla Faye.
Okay. I've heard apparently Layla Faye's supposed to be alright though, so we'll see.
She's the one who wrote the Crow, so
we'll see tomorrow then. Oh god.
Yes, you will.
Dressed and slid a copper onto the counter. Tangerine dutifully deposited it in the cash box and set to work. The old woman chuckled and twittered over the machine, okay, as it hissed and ground and gurgled, and she received her milk froth mug with a nod. No, Hope! I hate you. Oh no, it was Fez. No, it was Fez. I hate Fez. Hope's okay. So what was the Easter one?
So there's a book about the Easter Bunny appearing in someone's garden, and well, I sent it to Noah and suggested he read it. He said no. Although he is going to be reading one called Orc at some point.
Orcs. You can't go wrong with orcs. Rawr.
Well, I mean, would you like the first line of the synopsis?
Yeah, go on.
"We'll need a bucket," Gerd said, taking off his pants.
What the fuck?
So there we go.
No!
That is also on Kindle Unlimited, by the way. No, if you
Well,
read that
I better
instead.
go get it. I mean, DD orcs and half orcs. I love my half orcs. See, I'm not the only one.
I didn't say you were. I don't
No,
discriminate
I'm
against half
not the
orcs.
only one. Fire does. She hates them.
I don't like them particularly, to be honest.
I'm crazy.
I've been nice and sent you a link so you can not get around reading it. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Also, I agree, Hope. Anyway, I received her milk froth mug with a nod. Very nice, she said. Thank you both, dears. Oh, and while I'm here, I'd love to have that plate back, Viv handed it over with thanks. Thank you kindly, he exclaimed. Well, got to be getting back to my chores. Don't be strangers now. Then she waddled back across the street, plate in hand, leaving the cooling latte on the countertop without taking so much as a sip. She was like, yeah, here's your cup. She doesn't even drink it.
That's just rude.
Yeah, no. I would have inhaled that, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, I know. Maybe, can you find one for like a troll, but not, have you ever seen World of Warcraft trolls, Neil? I mean, Van, whatever your name is.
I haven't played.
They're very tall, very muscular, but slim at the same time. They're kind of hunky. We need to find a book with that.
I've never played World of Warcraft. I played Warcraft before it became the online thing.
Right, okay.
I can't remember which one it was. So it's been a long time since I read it.
They snakes.
So, snakes.
I'll send you some pictures.
I found one called Thick Beef. Does that count?
Is that about a cow? Or is that about a troll?
It's about a minotaur.
Minotaur, yeah.
If you're going to say it wrong, at least do it with conviction.
Shut up. Right, while we wait for Nita to gush about trolls, I'll continue. Tandri drank the latte. So, said Tandri, clutching the leather folio in front of her. Up till now, Viv would have said the succubus couldn't look nervous. I mentioned some ideas last night, and back in my room, I did a little thinking. Oh, Nita says they're delicious. I'm going to put them on Twitter. Oh, Tandri opened the folio on the counter and slid over a sheaf of pages covered in sketches and text. She shuffled them anxiously. Yes, well, I hope you're not too discouraged if you can let people know what they're missing. I think things could be fine. Her gaze met Viv's, because it is good, this idea. I'd hope so, Viv murmured, surprised. Tandri had been very sure of herself last night, but now she was talking fast as though afraid Viv would cut her short. She glanced down at Tandri's notes. Anyway, these are just some ideas. I thought if we could find a way to get a core clientele, then there'd be some spread from word of mouth. Plus, having customers in the shop will attract others, so I propose a sort of event. Oh.
I've sent you something to have a look at, Noah, when you're not reading.
I just seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a whole 7 seconds to find that.
Oh, well, should I read that on stream at some point too?
I haven't read it yet, so I don't know how bad it is.
It's fine.
Oh, yes. No, maybe not. You can read that.
Oh, okay. What is it? I just sent me a fan...
I've sent you 2 things.
Yeah, so... the Orc book. Monster erotica apparently is a genre itself. I thought monster romance was bad enough, but there's monster erotica. And also a fan fiction about a troll and a human. So that could be later. Oh my god. She turned a sheet around to face Viv. Tandra's sketches was actually quite attractive. Okay, sketches can be attractive. Ew, stinky woman. And Viv could see the ghosts of, oh my god, drafting lines behind the design she'd made. A combination of block brick. Grand opening, Legends and Lattes. Try the exotic gnomish sensation. Free samples, limited supply. You drew this? Asked Viv, impressed. Tandri tucked a lock of hair behind her ear, and her tail lashed behind her. I did. Anyway, with commissions... Oh, we commissioned some posters from the ink monger. We can post them at the job boards and get signed boards the street like this. Oh my god, that was absolute gibberish and awful that I just read. She produced another sketch similar with a big scripted arrow pointing in the presumed direction of the top. This is amazing, Tandri, Viv said. He thought the succubus coloured a little. I don't know what to say. I'm overwhelmed. Well, if you're not in business, I don't get paid either, Tandri flashed a smile. Oh, bye, Fez. Very true. The key is making it an opportunity that's limited. We want a lot of people at once, but not too many, or we can't serve them fast enough. So we start with just the street signs, and yes, you'll lose some coin on the free samples, but we're hoping for repeat customers. Viv noticed that Tandri settled on we and smiled. How do you propose we start then? Viv could see Tandri sees the idea fully. We'll need some funds. Ah! I hate you, Fez. That really got me. I hate you.
At least you've not put scare commands on. Have you?
No. Please don't. Because I have background or like stuff going on just so I have something in the background, like noises and stuff, so it's not just us talking. Please don't do a scare command. Please, I'm begging you.
Okay.
I can see you typing. You're gonna
Okay.
press it at some point. It's gonna scare the shit out of me. Please don't.
I mean, I'm currently on a fan fiction Warcraft site, so.
Oh, okay. Viv can see Tanji sees the idea fully. I'll need some funds and I'll get these materials together. Tomorrow we start with the signs. I can print them this afternoon, put them out on the street tonight after the doors are closed. Then we see what's what. Viv filled her purse with the strong box. Oh, filled her purse from the strong box. Can't put the whole strong box in a purse. And slid it across the counter to Tanji. You've got my blessing. Tanji beamed, at first, then snatched the purse and gathered the folio. As she hurried out the door, she called over her shoulder, I'll be back! Viv's optimism had dwindled rapidly during the morning, transmuting into growing despair, but now her moods lifted. Still, success remained far from a sure thing. With glances along the street to make certain no customers were approaching, she snorted ruefully and shook her head, temporarily closing and barring the big doors. She slid aside the table, carefully pried up the flagstone, and stroked the scalvert stone where it lay nestled in the earth. Come on, little lady, she whispered. Don't make me a fool. When Tanji returned, she laboured under... I'm gonna... need a drink, sorry. When Tanji returned, she laboured under the weight of 2 waist-high folding signs. The folio awkwardly pinched under one arm and a cloth bag over one shoulder. I clearly didn't think this part through, she panted. Viv hurried to relieve her of the signs and Tanji unburdened herself of the rest. The woman didn't ask if business had improved. It clearly hadn't. She unpacked the cloth bag, which contained stoppered ink wells, brushes, and a few curious curved pieces of wood. Tanji handed over the purse and then set to work. She sat cross-legged on the floor, rolled up her sleeves, laid her sketches beside her, and began inking. Her hand was steady as she executed clean strokes with her brush. There was no tension in her mouth. The bits of wood turned out to be stencils that she used to guide some of the longer and more elaborate curves. Tanji glanced occasionally at her sketches for reference, although, to Viv's eyes, she barely needed them. Less than an hour had passed when she swept a final snaking line across the bottom. She cleaned her brush on a rag and capped the inkwell, then stretched and kneaded her back as she surveyed her handiwork. Viv thought it looked quite professional. Were you a sign maker or something? No, just always had an artistic bent. Tanji turned to face her. I'd say we close up now and set them out while it's still daylight. You're the expert, says Viv, working a smile. I'll put 'em where you want 'em. Tanji stepped into the street. The first in front here, she pointed to a spot a few feet from the door. Viv carried out both signs, leaning one against the wall and obliged with its mate. I was really confused. I was like, mate. Angling it so... Oh god, no, angle it so that the arrow pointed towards the entryway. And this one, asked Viv, lifting the other one with her hand. I was thinking the intersection where you can see the high street, this way. She led her along Redstone to the corner. After Viv sat the sign down, Tanji checked the sight line in a few directions and fussed with the orientation until she was satisfied. They returned to the shop just as the lamplighters began setting the taper to the street lanterns. So, you think this will really work? Viv leaned against the doorframe as Tanji gathered her things. Couldn't get worse, said Tanji, emerging with folio in hand. Viv's eyes narrowed. I don't know about that, she murmured darkly. Over Tanji's shoulder, she spied someone coming up the street. She recognized that hat anywhere. What's that? Tanji turned to follow her gaze as Lack, oh that knob, strolled past alongside a thick man with a lantern on his belt and a badge over his heart. Lack rested one hand Wait, no. Lack rested one hand...
Companionably.
Thank you. On the gate warden's shoulder. He smiled and muttered something, and the badged man barked a good-natured laugh in response. Nothing, said Viv. Lack stopped a few paces away and glanced at Viv in mild surprise, then passed her to the shop. Great Warden looked puzzled by the interruption. The stone fay took a step closer, peering through the window. Quite the blade, Viv. I do hope you're not showing your teeth, he pointed inside. The gate warden squinted through the glass as well. Indeed, he agreed, patting the hilt of his own short sword. It's sentimental, said Viv, snarling more than she intended. Tangia looked back and forth between them, gripping her folio tighter. Should I be worried? She asked quietly. Viv wasn't sure how to answer that, for it had dawned on her that there was more to be lost than the shop itself. Black nodded, his ruffles bouncing on his chest. 2 weeks, he said. Just a friendly reminder. Wouldn't want you to forget to set aside a portion. The gate warden didn't so much as blink at that, and any notion of tapping the local authorities for help evaporated. Viv clenched her fist and forced them to relax. Guess we'd better hope things pick up by then, she said. Can't squeeze blood from a stone. Yes, I'm sure you know about squeezing blood from things or extracting it in other ways. I imagine you can be quite resourceful. Rest assured, we are similarly talented. We're the same talented. We have the same talents. There, that's what I'm saying. We have the same talents. Fuck. His gaze flicked to Tandria and he bowed. Not mocking, in fact, his expression was confusingly apologetic. Shall we carry on? Prompted the gate warden. Viv and Tandria watched them go. What was that all about? Asked Tandria once they'd disappeared. Nothing I can't handle, don't worry about it. Tandria's expression was skeptical, but she didn't argue. You should get home, said Viv, forcing a smile. The signs are incredible and I've already kept you too late. You sure? Positive. Tandria nodded reluctantly and left, folio tucked under her arm. As the succubus rounded the corner, Viv stalked over, removed the open sign from its peg, and went inside. When she closed the door, she tried her best to be gentle about it, but it still rattled on the hinges. As Viv lay on her bedroll, she withdrew the blink stone that Rune had given her. She turned it over and over in her hands, thinking about how clear the division between success and failure had once been. That clarity had never been more elusive. Put away the stone and did not go to sleep for a long time.
That was a lot of words.
It was. I hope yours is longer.
It's not. I checked.
Bitch.
I got in first this time. She definitely harboured some hope, but when Viv went to hang the open sign on its peg, the sight of 3 individuals lined up outside the door still startled her. A burly dock worker, Jesus, a burly dock worker, a red-cheeked washerwoman, and a ratkin in a big leather apron dusted with flour. The dock worker looked her up and down, surprised, then growled, "Free supplies."
No, free samples.
Same difference. He hooked. Look, coffee is a supply for the morning.
Yeah, but so that's free samples.
Shut up.
Okay.
Silence, child. He hooked a huge thumb at the sign in the street. That's right, said Viv, propping the door wide with a river stone. The sky was still dark, and the morning air had a mid-spring bite to it. All 3 bustled inside. Viv had the stove lit for heat, and the wall lanterns cast a buttery glow over the interior. The washerwoman approached the counter and examined the sheet of parchment that Viv had weighted down with a few smooth pebbles. She hadn't had the time to find a slate, so she'd hand-printed a menu, conscious of the crudeness of her attempt compared to Tandri's stylus work. It was better than nothing, but she'd have her new employee rework it later if she was willing. It doesn't matter if she's willing, you're paying her, she'll do as she's told. Anyway.
Ooh, forceful. I like it.
There's a comment there, I'm not making it. Viv hadn't bothered to add prices to the simple list. She didn't want to scare anyone off. Everything was free for the time being anyway. Menu. Coffee. Rich drink brewed with roasted gnomish beans. Latte. Coffee with milk. Creamy and delicious. Don't know what none of this is, said the washerwoman, tapping the list with one red forefinger. Which one is best? She's put her little thought into this. Do you take cream in your tea? Nah, she replied. Hot are more of it how I likes mine. So it's like tea, is it? Viv waggled a hand side to side, then admitted, no, not really. She looked at the other 2. How about you? What's she having? Said the dock worker, crossing his arms. The Ratskin approached, got up on his toes to get a good view of the menu, and after a moment, tapped the latte without uttering a word. Done, said Viv. She set to brewing. As the machine began hissing and grinding and burbling, her first customers gathered around curiously. The Ratkin squeaked in surprise when the brew began to gush into a mug, his oil drop eyes gleaming. She slid the first mug to the woman, who cautiously picked it up, gave it a deep sniff and a puff of breath to cool it, and then a hefty sip. She screwed up her face for a moment, then nodded. Huh. Not bad, that is, she admitted. Not tea, that's sure. Not saying I'd pay by the mug here, but... She wandered into the dining area and slid onto the bench, hands curled around the mug. Leaning over it, she sighed deeply. The dock worker received his, smelled it dubiously, and somehow drank it all in 4 long swallows. Viv grimaced and grabbed at her own throat involuntarily. The big man contemplated it, shrugging, returning the mug, and left without a word. Viv's disappointment was acute, but she still managed to call out, thank you, in her best impression of someone who knew what they were doing. Tandri slipped in the door and quietly rounded the counter as Viv brewed the Ratkin's latte. He waited with his hands clasped daintily, his whiskers twitching, snout quivering. He eagerly received the cup and thrust his nose into the curls of steam rising above the golden cream on the surface. After a delicate sip, he closed his eyes, clearly savouring it, and Viv leaned her elbows on the counter to watch. Elbows?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was gonna let it slide, but I couldn't.
Elbows, that's
elbows.
That's the Ratkin's eyes opened and he dipped his head in thanks. He quietly took his mug to a booth where he sipped his drink and kicked his dangling paws.
Oh, that's really cute. I'm sorry.
A promising start, said Tandri. That's all so far? So far. The washerwoman departed, leaving her mug at the table, and eventually the Ratkin finished as well, delivering his empty cup to the front of the counter. That's a good customer.
Yeah, that's what I like to do.
Yeah. He bowed politely and scurried out the door, leaving scattered dustings of flour in his wake. That's because you're a people pleaser. Just saying. Not making the comment. Tandra heated a kettle on the stove, filled the wash basin, and gathered the mugs to soak. That was a good idea, she said, indicating the menu on the counter. Really helpful. Viv gave her a sidelong glance. You could do better, though. Well, better isn't the word I'd use. I'm going to pick up a slate and some chalk later. Got the idea from a pub on the high street. We can hang it back here, and when you can work the same magic you did with the signs. Is that all right? Why do I recognise the name Ethan Winter?
Resident Evil Village.
Oh.
Main guy, Lady Demetresque.
Well, I still think you should write the Lady Demetresque stuck in the washing machine fanfiction that we discussed.
No, that's a dream that you had because you were messed up in the head, and I agreed that would happen because of her size.
It's because you sent me that reading
that voice. That bad. No, someone sent me a bad fan fiction of Lady Demetresque, right? And it was really bad. It was fucking hilarious, but it was really bad. It took me like 3 minutes to read it to him, and that's all I have to say about it. It was really bad. It was so funny.
Would you like me to post it in the Discord later?
No. No, please no.
Okay.
Continue.
My pleasure. Each morning, customers, the sort of folks who rise well before dawn to begin the day's labour, arrived in a thin trickle. Viv and Tandy worked in tandem. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Explaining the menu as best they could and trading off between brewing and cleaning. The shop was pleasant and warm, and the smell of roasted beans permeated the air, drifting out into the street. More than a few folk clearly followed their noses in the door. Viv dared to hope. The morning surge dried up after a few hours, and business evaporated, even though the traffic outside the shop increased. And now it's looking like yesterday all over again, muttered Viv. Let's not worry yet. But Viv noticed that the woman was scrubbing mugs she'd already cleaned. Before long, Tandri was aggressively wiping the surface of the machine, polishing it for the 5th time. The next few hours were frankly agonizing. At last, around noon, their first post-morning visitor walked through the door. He was young, tall, and handsome, in an undeferred and aristocratic way. His looks were somewhat spoiled by an inadvisable beard, too wispy, too patchy. He glanced around as if searching for someone. A satchel of books weighed down one arm, and he kept looking down at one cupped palm. He wore a split-hemmed cloak and a pin on his left breast that looked a lot like the head of a stag. He didn't approach the counter, wandering instead into the dining area. Viv watched him with a wrinkled brow. Acker's student, murmured Tandri. Acker's? The Thorbic Academy. Oh. Visited my first day here, but didn't know the name. He looks pretty well to do. Maybe we'll even get some word of mouth. Students talk to each other, right? They talk all right, muttered Tandri with a hint of venom that made Viv look at her askance. The young man circled the big table and benches twice, and then sidled into one of the wall booths, unpacking some books, and began consulting them. Viv shot Tandri a questioning glance, but the succubus shrugged. They both continued to watch him. After about 20 minutes, during which Viv grew increasingly perplexed, she approached him and asked, Anything I can help you with? He glanced up, smiling brightly, and replied, No, thank you. Are you here for the free sample? She pressed. Sample? Oh no, nothing for me, thanks. Then he returned to his study. Nonplussed, Viv returned to the counter, shaking her head. He remained there for a full 3 hours, during which time he busily perused his reading materials, scrawling intermittently on a parchment, consulted his cupped hand again and again, and murmured to himself. Then he packed his things, rose, and approached the counter. Thanks ever so much, he said. With a genial nod, he left.
What would you do with a customer like that?
The thing is, if you kick him out in the street, bad
I'd be like,
press travels faster.
buy something though, at least.
Well, I'd have just given him a free sample anyway, because it's free sample day.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But if you get him to leave, the first thing they'll go and do is go and tell everybody.
That's
so
true.
you get bad press, so it stops people coming in.
Hmm.
So the other option is you just kill him.
They'll never know that way.
I mean, if they don't find the body, they don't know where he died.
Turn him into some coffee. Let's go.
I think we need to... I don't think... First of all, they don't seem to have a bean. Could be wrong, but that didn't suggest it in the description. So I don't think you could make bean water out of him. You've gone very quiet all of a sudden. Anyway.
Just hope sent me something.
Okay. After too much listless pacing, Viv abruptly decided that some sort of action was required. She left Tantry with the shop and headed into the city, to the trade district up north. That's fine. Being a menace is always a good thing, Hope. I've just lost where I was up to. It wasn't a market day, but she managed to locate a big panel of slate at a sign maker's and some stubs of chalk. She even found multiple colours. She figured Tandri should have a palette to work with. It felt good to be doing something at least. The morning rush had raised her expectations for the rest of the day, but on the walk back she counselled herself against unreasonable hope. Certain hours were just better suited to the business. A restaurant was busiest at mealtimes, and a cafe was busiest... Well, she supposed she'd discover when exactly that was. Oh yes, this will work perfectly, Tandri purred as she took the chalk and slate from Viv. She dug her wooden stencils out of the storage room, set up the big table and got to work. While she drew, Viv in the doorway looked up and down the street. Lainey was out on her porch, sweeping as she always seemed to be, and waggled a cheery finger wave at her. Just on a side point.
Hmm.
So, when we read The Beast, there was an overuse of the word primal, right?
Oh, yeah.
This overuses the word waggled.
Just a little bit.
So,
We've got waggled, we've got gurgled quite a lot.
So, yeah, just a side observation. Was morning really the only time she could expect to do business? It certainly hadn't seemed that way in Azimuth. The cafes there had been lively throughout the balance of the day. Perhaps prospects would improve if the idea caught on. She supposed tomorrow would give her an inkling. When she re-entered the shop, she found Tandri examining the finished menu, which leaned against the wall. Again, Tandri's script was far superior to Viv's artistic efforts, and she'd used the colours to excellent effect. Her text appeared beveled, almost leaping off the slate. She'd also taken some creative liberties with the wording. Legends and Lattes menu. Coffee, exotic aromas, and rich, full-bodied roast. Half a bit. Latte, a sophisticated and creamy variation. 1 bit. Finer taste for the working gent and lady. She'd even added an artistic rendering of a pair of beans and a mug with an artful curl of steam. I like it. You're a hell of an artist, Viv nodded her. Here, I've got a mallet in the back. I think Noah's mentioned that to me. In passing. At some point.
What?
I think you have.
I've not. No, I don't know what that is about.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of the other one.
What are you talking about? I'm actually confused.
No, I'm thinking of the other
I remember a
fanfic
fanfic I wrote. The word
Was it
was
Bummelum?
musk. Not wrote. Read.
Oh, red.
No, I believe that. I'm going to say you wrote it. Musk? Musk is a very strong word for... I've been musked
Primal
on by a
things.
snake, right? So the thought of there's musk.
I feel like we need clarification on what you mean by the term musked on by a snake.
So some snakes, especially ones known as milk snakes, they're known when they get scared or anything, instead of biting or trying to get away, if you handle one, what they do is they'll spray you. They will musk you with a scent. It's not a pretty scent. It's quite strong, and
I think that's
it
probably the
stinks.
intention.
I don't get the brains to write a fanfic, but if you want to give me the street cred for it, I'll take it. I mean, yeah. Let's go home. Anyway, what are we up to? Send us the link. I'm joking.
Tandri held the sign level while Viv banged a few nails into the wall below the base as a sort of shelf. The slate was a good idea, said Tandri. We could change or add to it easily. Change it? If you decide to expand the menu, you never know. Which they really should do. 2 drinks is a poor offering. And they should probably be offering tea as well. Just saying.
Yeah.
Viv looked around the place and sighed. I'd hoped we'd have more afternoon. Maybe around dinner? Doesn't feel like it's going to happen, though. I don't know if expanding the menu is going to be a real concern anytime soon. Tandri pursed her lips and tapped them with a forefinger. Let's wait and see what tomorrow morning brings. 3 samples still, you think? Yes, let's see about repeat customers first. Her expression waxed briefly wicked. Hook them, and then see if they stay on the line.
Ooh.
Never was any good at fishing. You're in a river town now. You'll learn. Viv hoped she was right.
Ooh.
The next one's got a picture of a cat.
Oh, it does. It's the most smallest picture of cat. Yo, how long is this fucking chapter?
I don't know. I didn't go.
It's a few pages.
It's 10 pages.
That's
It's not
10.
exactly much.
Oh.
It's not even 10 pages.
Wait, how many is yours?
I don't know.
2, 3. Yours is only 4.
I hate to point out, but what did you do to me last time?
I made you read the first chapter. That was
You
the
picked
longest.
the 23-page chapter, and you took the 6-page chapter.
No,
So,
I didn't know.
stop
I
your
took
bitching.
excuse you.
And
No, I took
on
the
top of that-
the prologue,
of
which was
that-
like 3.
On top of that, I also partially read one of your chapters with you as
Yeah.
the alternative character.
Because you're lovely.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, I am.
wait, Hope says it was like 11 years ago. But if it helps explain the word usage, it was back when I was dating a furry. Dated a furry? Huh. Didn't expect that for some reason. I don't know why. Wow. How about a short break?
Yes, because I can go get some actual coffee.
Yeah. Was not a good band. He played bass in a band. It was
That's the
good
takeaway.
But you played the bass. I mean, bang. Was he like proper slap? What did he slap it really hard? That's what you call it when you slap the strings on the bass. Yeah, bang, bang.
I don't think you slap.
You do. You
the
slap.
strings,
You
do you?
slap. You slap the bass. Slap the bass. Slap it. You know, the little. When he was just solo jamming. Yeah. See, told you. Told you. I know my instruments, right? Music. Always wanted to learn the bass. Do you know bass?
When I was in college, someone tried to get me to learn to do that, to be in a band, and I refused because I
was in a band.
knowledge of my abilities.
I
or
was in
lack
a
of.
band in high school, and we were called the Inbred Granddads.
Wow.
Because we didn't know what to call ourselves, and we were like, okay, you'll say a word, and then say what you think it is. So we were like, inbred, and then someone turned around and went, Granddad! And we were like, well, there we go. Like, there's something wrong with your granddad. She was like, yeah, we know.
Out of curiosity, was the first song you learnt Sweet Home Alabama?
On the guitar? Like,
Well,
personally?
with it being inbred.
No.
Inbred Granddad,
I wish it
Sweet
was.
Home
No,
Alabama.
it was Seven
Inbred.
Nation Army. I'm gonna
mean, that-
find more. And then we did like Kryptonite by I think it was Three Doors Down and
Oh.
stuff.
I like that song.
Me too. It's been a while since I played it. Right, we're gonna have a break. I'm gonna quickly run out to
I'm gonna
get milk
coffee.
for my coffee.
To get milk, you do know what time it is, right?
Yeah. I'm just gonna run across. I'll just knock onto someone's door. I'll be like, "Yo,
Oh.
give me milk."
Yeah, God, you go up to someone's door and just go, "Excuse me, give me some of your milk."
And then I'm just gonna hold a cup out to them and be like, "Just squeeze it into here, please. Thank you."
Let's hope they've not been active during the day then, because it might take a while. Anyway, I'll let you put us to break.
Okay.
And
I'll probably be about like a 10-minute one, just so I
Yeah,
can
no
run.
worries.
So, yeah. Right. We'll
be flustered.
be right back. Right.
There we go.
Are we ready?
Well, yeah, I've been in. Just so you know, I got in trouble
Why?
for the comment I made about people being tired.
What comment?
As you were going to go and get milk, and I said it might take a while if they've had a busy day. I have been told off.
Who told you off? Was it Jam?
Yes.
I didn't need to question that.
No, you didn't. So
Bless Jen.
I am suitably chastised, and yet somehow unrepentant. So.
Right. Ready?
Yes. Well, that's because you have a mouthful of starch.
I should probably get some water at some point. But it's fine. It's too late now.
Yes.
There were repeat customers, although Viv supposed customer might be too strong a word while the drinks were free. When they opened, the washerwoman and the ratkin were back. The woman had a friend in tow, and there were 4 others behind them. The ratkin scurried inside first, wafting a cloud of flour, and pointed wordlessly at the latte on the menu. Tandri brewed for the first rush of customers, while Viv watched the street, nodding to herself as a few stragglers joined the short line. Business stayed reasonably steady too, with only a few gaps where one or the other of them wasn't pulling a fresh shot. Seems like the fishing is good, murmured Tandri, as she passed by with emptied mugs in hand. You're the angler, said Viv, smiling. I guess you'd know. She leaned out to peer into the dining area where a scattering of sleepy folk murmured in tentative conversation. She glanced behind her and found that Tangier was up, oh my god, on a footstool with chalk in hand, adding a new line to the bottom of the slate menu. 3 samples today only. And when she stepped down, she caught Viv's questioning gaze and said, let's see if the hook really set. They were still...
I'd give it an extra day.
I mean, this is the second day, correct?
Yeah, so you'd give it 3 days.
But it's an odd number.
Yeah, I like odd numbers.
No, I don't.
Well...
Why do you always think I end up with, like, even numbers when I buy books?
Yeah, why do you think I buy in odd numbers?
You're weird. You're
it's
a
like
fool.
if I have sweets or Pringles, I have to have an odd number of them.
No, it has to be even.
Well...
It has to be even.
If you have a vote and it's an even number of people voting, there's always a chance that nobody wins. Hence why I always go for even. You're guaranteed an outcome.
You just said even, so I am right, even.
Shut up, I know what I mean.
Nope, too late now. They were still doing slow business as the morning crept toward noon. Yeah. Noon! When the Akers student from the previous day reappeared. He stepped smartly inside, registered surprise at the people sipping their drinks in the dining area, and with only a distracted glance at Viv and Tandri, hurried to a spot in a vacant booth. He unloaded his books, satchel again, and resumed his scribbling and the cryptic consultation of his palm. The next hour the man did nothing but avail himself of the seating, and Viv grew increasingly irritated. What is he doing? She asked Tandri in a loud whisper. She shrugged. Coursework? Research? Though why he's doing it here, I have no idea. Yesterday I was almost happy to have him just to fill a seat, but if he's only going to take up room... Weirdos who even count snacks. That's true, Hope.
Us.
Yeah, apparently us.
How many chips have you got, Noah? Is it an odd or an even number?
I don't know, but I've eaten even numbers so far.
What will you do if you end up with an odd number by the end of it?
I give it to the dog. Unless I rip it in 2 and make it 2 separate things. Easy. Logic. Even me and the dog gets it. Ugh. I notice it when it's in my mouth and when I run out. Weirdo. Easy enough to find out, said Tandri as she rounded the counter. He gave her a distracted glance as she approached, clenching his hand closed. Can I help you? He asked a bit whippishly?
Waspishly.
Waspishly? That's a word I've never heard.
It means snappy, basically.
Well, just put snappy in. Why you gotta be extra? I'm just saying. You took the word...
say snappily, I'd say waspishly, and we'll see which one you struggle with more.
Snappy?
Snappily.
Snappy? He asked a bit snappy.
No.
He asked snappily.
Oh, there you go. You can say it. I'm impressed.
Me too. Shut up. You took the words right out of my mouth, said Tandri. Thanks so much for visiting and 2 days in a row. I'm just checking to see if you'd like a sample. I assume that's why you're here. Viv had drifted across the room to overhear. A sample? Yeah, his eyes flicked between her horns and tail, and he seemed puzzled, as though he hadn't been asked the same question the previous day. Coffee? A latte? You're aware this is a shop that serves drinks? Oh! He seemed to recover. Yes, well, there's no need, he smiled as though conferring a favour. I'll be just fine without. Tandra's polite smile thinned away, but then she deliberately appeared to apply a new one. Yeah, deliberately appeared to apply a new one.
I've just read slightly ahead and I can't wait.
At a significantly higher wattage, Viv got the distinct impression that Tandra was unveiling the barest edge of something she normally kept cloaked. With a subtle purr, she asked, "Can I ask what you're doing, mister?" Thanks, Hope. Much love. Have a good night, okay?
I sure hope.
Hemington, he stammered. Well, I would love to, but it's all very technical. Oh, shit. Technical stuff. He attempted to look apologetic. I'm very interested in technical matters, said Tandri. I sat in a few classes at Akers. Try me, maybe. You have? Hemington blinked. Well, it's to do with ley lines, you see. He warmed to his subject as Tanji slid into the booth across from him and oh my god, what the fuck?
Yep, that's where I read to.
And rested her chin on interlaced fingers. They crisscrossed Thune and Thumic thread theory.
Really right.
Yeah.
Thune and Thormic thread theory.
Yeah, whatever you call it, is preoccupied with the radiant effects on the material realm. That's a fascinating intersection with my area of study. Young curled his hand, and the imprint of a ring of sigils glimmered a faint blue there. Symbols writhed on his palm, reshaping in little licks of light. A ley compass, said Tandri, pointing at it. Viv stared at that. Well, yes, he replied, clearly pleased at her recognition. But what I'm finding here is truly anomalous. Okay.
Yep, no, you're right.
We see scattered minor We see scattered minor line nexuses throughout the city and westward towards farthest, but I've found a nexus right here that is giving some terribly interesting readings. Leyline's pulse, of course. Of course, agrees Tandri. This nexus holds firm. It's really quite extraordinary, so I'm taking some measurements, assembling some notes. This could be the foundation of a fascinating paper detailing their the interactions with ward glyphs. Viv had a sick feeling in her stomach and couldn't stop herself from glancing to where the scarlet stone was hidden. No, Scalvet Stone. I keep calling it a Scarlet Stone. She couldn't pretend that it wasn't responsible somehow, and if this student continued with his readings, the mention of a compass was unnerving. Then where might that lead him? That is fascinating, Hemington, said Tandri. It is, isn't it? But this is a place of business, she continued. Of course, we'd love to have you as a customer, but the seating area is really intended for patrons. Hemington adopted an expression of annoyed consternation.
There we go.
Ooh, I'm glad I got that one. I don't really drink hot beverages. Tandri ignored his protest and smiled at him sweetly. Unfortunately for you, today's samples are free. Yes, well, I suppose he grudgingly allowed. I will take advantage of that. Excellent, I'll bring you a cup. She rose to return to the counter, but then turned back. Oh, and as a reminder, this is the last day of the promotional period. Only a half bit for our flagship beverage. Thanks ever so much. Me. As Tandri brewed a cup, Viv whispered, "We're an ACAS graduate? Not a graduate as such, just took a few relevant classes." Relevant to what? Personal interest, she replied evasively. Viv didn't press. Tandri delivered the drink to Hemington, who stared at it doubtfully and made no move to drink it. After tapping her chin for a moment, Tandri took up the chalk and added another line to the menu. Purchase required to enjoy the dining area.
I don't know why, but the voice in my head saying that is the voice of a self-service till.
Ha! Yeah.
It just fits.
Check out number 3, please.
Purchase required to enjoy the dining area.
That was really good. I'm impressed. Hemington eventually departed.
I can be quite impressive. Carry on, dear.
Hemington eventually departed, leaving his untouched drink on the table. At least he had the decency. I was going to be like, decency. Oops, sorry, Milo.
At least he had the decadence to hover over it. Would be a different sort of story.
Yeah, just a little bit. For a moment, clearly trying to decide which was least embarrassing, leaving it where it was or bringing the full cup to the front. As he slunk past the counter, he noted Tandri's fresh addition to the sign. You know, I would buy something. It's just as I said, I don't care much for hot drinks. Oh god, it's gonna get the cappuccinos and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
really.
Iced coffee's ace.
It is. I want some. Perhaps if there was something to eat, he said, a note of pleading in his voice. Said Viv in her best impression of Carl. Cal, not Carl. I'll take it on your... Carl! What did you do, Carl? My stomach had the rumblies. I'll
I
take
mean,
it
I've
one.
just got the stabbing thing, but there we go.
Oh.
That's my least favourite thing to do.
After he left, though, she glanced at the stove the hob had installed. Something.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I just read it wrong.
Okay.
Something
Oh,
niggled at her. An idea. She let that.
I'm sorry. Oh, nascent.
No, we're past that. As she went to retrieve Hemington's mug, the shop had mostly emptied, although one old dwarf sat tucked away in the back, nursing his drink while he slowly ran his finger over a broad sheet, moving his lips as he read. Viv turned and stopped short. An enormous, shaggy creature sat in the center of the shop, sprawled in a square of sunlight. Tandri stood on its other side, eyes wide. The beast had to weigh 10 stone and was as big as a wolf, but it looked
Oh,
like
no.
nothing so much as an enormous, shaggy, and slightly sooty house cat.
Not again.
It just appeared, said Tandri weakly. I didn't see it come in. What in the hells is it? Asked Vid. The massive animal ignored them both but yawned, extended all the claws in its forepawns, and arched its back in a languorous.
I've totally lost.
In a really big stretch, basically. We're on page 96, nearly halfway down.
I know, I'm just looking for...
Yo, they have dire cats! Dire cat, a voice piped up from behind Viv. The elderly dwarf looked over from his paper. Don't see him no more these days. Supposed to be lucky, he squinted. Or maybe unlucky, I forget. You've seen one before? Aye. Used to be more around when I was wee. Good ratters, he coughed. Also kept the stray dog population down. Tandri blanched. Did we try to move it? The dire cat regarded first Tandri, then Viv with green eyes like saucers. Slowly, they drifted to slits, and the rumble of a distant landslide filled the room. Viv realized it was purring. Aye. She thought of the thumps on the roof tiles and the landlady's pilfered cake. She thought about the lines of verse and the scalvert stone. Honestly, said Viv, if I've learned one thing, it's that if a beast isn't angry yet, don't get it started. I think I'll leave it to be. Maybe it will wander off. I'm pretty sure it lives around here. Andrew nodded dubiously and edged behind the counter. The elderly dwarf folded his broadsheet under his arm, hopped down and strolled past the cat, giving it a scratch behind one of its enormous ears. Aye, a good girl, said. Miss seeing him around. How can you tell it's a girl, said Tandri. The dwarf shrugged. Guessing, but I ain't gonna lift a tail to find out for sure. The dire cat did not leave, but Viv did manage to lure it into a less central corner of the shop with a dish of cream. The animal approached with magisterial grace.
Close enough.
Thank you. Surveyed the room and then emptied the dish with a tongue as big as a spade. Then it resettled in a great shaggy heap. The sound of its rumbling purr trebled, and it fell asleep. Andrew was visibly relieved to have the creature out of the way. The cafe was empty again in what Viv was beginning to suspect would be the slowest part of the day, though she was hopeful they'd get at least a visitor or two. But the one who appeared in the threshold was the last person she wanted to see. Dennis strode into the shop, hands behind his back, his perfume trailing like a cloak. His hair was pinned up fashionably... Oh my god. Fashionably expression arch.
That's bad English.
Okay, thank God, okay, because I've had... There's been a few of these.
No, but
That was bad English.
By the way, that's...
His hair was pinned up fashionably at expression arch.
See, it should be pinned up in a fashionably expression arch. Would make more sense.
It would. I agree with that. The elf had always proposed a regal bearing. Viv couldn't understand how he managed to look down his nose at her, even though she was 2 heads taller. She crewed with him for years, and neither had warmed to the other. Viv tried to chalk it up to personality conflict, but deep down she knew that it was mutual dislike. Venice always found ways to make her feel less than, with the barest twist of inflection, or a carefully chosen word slips like a knife between the ribs. So sharp you didn't notice the world until you looked up from a lapful of blood, and Viv wasn't above a blunt riposte. even if it
Yeah.
often came far too late. She assumed she'd never see him again and would have been glad of it. The fact that he was darkening her doorway meant he wanted something. Very much hoped she was wrong. Still, she forced a smile. Venice! Surprised to see you here. His smile was even more false than hers, although it hardly marred his beauty. Viv, I heard from Rune that you'd set up, and he glanced around with a perfectly wrinkled brow. Enterprise. I thought I'd see it for myself. And how is Rune? Oh, well, very well. He ran a finger along the countertop and inspected it. Tanjiro watched the exchange with pursed lips and clearly noticed the electric buzz of tension. Leaning on the counter and adopting a smile, she addressed the elf. Hello there. I don't want to interrupt, but would you care for a sample? It's a grand opening promotion. Grand opening? Just the slightest quirk to the first word, the tiniest caress of amusement. Ah, is this that gnomish beverage you were so taken with? He glanced at Viv with an indulgent smile. No, not for me. Thank you kindly. I'm just stopping in to see an old friend. A pleasure, said Viv. It wasn't. Yes, so excellent to see you off to such a promising start. The elf surveyed the conspicuously empty dining area, maintaining his smile. He delicately wrapped a knuckle against the coffee maker and cocked an ear at the subtle tone it generated. It does indeed have the ring of fortune about it. Viv froze. Then suddenly a fairy bolt stalked past wait. Then suddenly a fairy bolt stalked past her to stand in front of Fennis, and the rocks down a washboard. Wait, what? What?
It's a sound description. So you almost like like
oh,
chords
the
on a soundboard. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I was
So
really
that's
confused.
what the purr sounds like.
No,
and no, it's not doing that.
The sound of its purr became something altogether more menacing. The die cat's hair stood on end, making it look half again as large, and it hissed louder than the coffee maker ever had. Venice eyed the animal uncertainly. Is this thing yours? Tanjiro leaned. Tanjiro leaned further forwards and surprised Viv with her tone of a politely savage delight. She is. Bit of a shop mascot. He wrinkled his nose in distaste, and then his eyes flicked to Viv. Charming. Well, I suppose I'll be on my way. I only wanted to deliver my congratulations. Best wishes, Viv. She silently watched him leave, and Tanjiro came around the counter to hunker in front of the enormous cat, which was now licking one forepaw with regal deliberation and looking pleased with itself. Tanjiro's prior
apprehension.
Thank you, forgotten. She scratched behind the die cat's ears and looked in a deeper purr and murmured, You're a good girl, aren't you? You know a dickhead when you see one. You know a dickhead when you see one. She looked at Viv. Old co-worker.
On the other side of this call, and it's not you.
Thank you. No love lost between you two, I guess. Something like that. Being the best of friends isn't a requirement for the work I used to do. Tanjiro returned her attention to the cat. You need a name. How about Amity? That's right.
What's a stupid name?
What would you name a giant, like, fucking dire cat?
Gilgamesh.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I should never even question that.
Or, if it's a girl, Ishtar.
I guess she's called Ishtar now, then. Viv snorted, unable to suppress a small smile. Oh my god, they're literally moving like lesbians because they don't really date, but they move in together and they get a cat. And it's called butching it out. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know these things.
Okay.
So.
Just thought I'd make a comment on it because what Stretford-wise and stuff like that, that's what it was called. Not that I'd go around telling people that, but that's what it was known as.
I kind of know that that's like this sort of weird meme that lesbians just move in together and they never actually officially go out, whereas gay people just, go, bye, bedroom.
Milo, silence, Baba.
Give me chips. I don't know how true that is, obviously, but...
Viv snorted, unable to suppress a small smile. Why not, since you're already such fast friends? Not like you and him. Tanjiro jerked a thumb towards the recently departed elf. What do you think he really wanted? Viv didn't answer. Instead, thinking of what Finnis had said, Han went to the folded scrap of fur she kept in her pocket. United Thermacline. The scalvet stone of fire draws the ring of fortune, next of heart's desire. Chapter
So
11.
we're 100 pages in,
Mm-hmm.
so about a third of the way.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts so far?
The one with the most personality is Tandri, and the cat.
Okay, so I'm getting, and hear me out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something I want to talk about on the podcast next
Mm-hmm.
time round, actually, is what makes a good protagonist in a story.
They need to see, the thing with me is
And
that I need them to have like the person. Obviously, they need the personality, but they need
yeah,
to feel like they're alive. They have the
well,
hopes and dreams and stuff.
I don't know if you've picked up on that. This sort of links into Gone and Hunger. My biggest issue is the protagonist in those is too vanilla. Not enough personality, so you have to project to give that, which
Maybe
is
that's
probably
what it's
deliberate.
doing. Yeah, that's probably what they're
And
doing
I,
with this one.
yeah, and I think that's what it is with this. It feels like you've got to kind of project yourself onto them to get more out of it.
See, with that
Almost
in
like,
mind, though. Sorry, go on.
almost like in RPG games where you don't have the voice protagonist, so you don't have any personality through that. But that works better in a game
Yeah,
than it does in a book.
but having that in mind, though, with that, it does make it a little bit easier to read.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's yeah, because if you don't like the protagonist,
I'm
Nick
not going to
Prasad,
touch it.
um, just a side point.
It's definitely something to talk on. I like that.
Yeah. So, and because I know Jenny would love this, I would like a conversation about villains at some point because I like a good villain.
Oh, I love it. I want a love story with a villain.
I can find one of those.
Do it.
But anyway, chapter 11. Despite a fitful sleep plagued with worries over Fennis, Viv eventually steered her thoughts to Hemington's parting comments about food. Also, I bet the rat folk ends up working with them.
Flower.
Especially if you look at the cover art. Not cover art,
Oh, yeah, there's a rat.
yeah,
Even
which I
fucking
noticed afterwards. Whilst she ruminated, Tandri blacked out the lines
Pause.
on the sign.
They like to use the word ruminate quite a lot.
I hadn't picked up on that.
I don't. Continue.
On the signboards, mentioning free samples and limited supplies and adjusting the menu while she was at it. When the regulars returned, plus a few new faces, Viv noted with pleasure that they paid for their drinks and without complaint. As they fucking should.
Mm-hmm.
Viv and Tandri shared a relieved glance and got down to business, enjoying the warm bustle behind the hissing machine. Cal stopped in again, too, obviously relieved there was no silence to fill with idle conversations. No observations. He groused when Viv refused his copper, but hovered by the counter while he drank, nodding every once in a while as he watched them work. Remembering the idea she'd been toying with, Viv asked Tandri to handle brewing duties halfway through the rush. Tandri smoothly picked up the orders while Viv went to find the ratkin. Bloody hell. Tucked away in one of the back corner booths, feet swinging, eyes closed, meditating over his steaming mug. She slid in across from him and his bright eyes opened to regard her warily. He was wearing the same apron she'd seen him in the morning, whitened liberally with flour. Up close, pale powder flecked the fine hairs on his arms and faces as well. Hi, I'm Viv. He nodded and slurped at his latte. Not too talkative, he shook his head. That's all right, but I wanted to ask you something. I noticed your... and she gestures at his apron. Well, the flour. And I wondered if you happen to know anything about baking. The ratkin stared at her, whiskers twitching, and gently set down his mug, then gave a slow triple nod. You do? So I have something of an idea. I'm thinking what this place might need is some breads or something baked to eat. She squeezed an invisible loaf between her hands. Snacks, I guess. Not something I know much about, but I thought you, well, if you did know something about them, then... The Ratkin raised a tentative paw to forestall her. Leaning forward over his drink in a tiny, breathy voice, he said, "Tomorrow." Tomorrow. He nodded again. Eagerly, Viv thought. She didn't know whether he had to be on his way or needed a few hours to think, but despite her curiosity, she wasn't going to press the matter. She rapped the table and stood. "I'll look forward to it, mister." He stared up at her and in a solemn whisper said, "Thimble." "Thimble," Viv agreed, and she gave him a nod and returned to the counter. They all have stupid names.
I don't know. It's alright. For a human.
What's it short for? So,
Vivacious.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. The afternoon again became a desert of inactivity. Hemmington returned and purchased a drink, a pained expression on his face, and once more left it untouched. Viv wiped down tables in the empty dining area, gathered dirty mugs. Suddenly, Tandri's voice cut through the hush, her tone icy. "What are you doing here?" Tandri glared at a young man who leaned on the countertop, gazing back at her in an overly familiar way. His soft handsomeness hinted at money, and while he wasn't... So, I'm sorry, that's bollocks. He wasn't wearing... Handsomeness cannot suggest money. Being well-groomed can. Your clothing can, but handsomeness...
Maybe that's what they meant, being well-groomed.
Well, that's not handsomeness. There are plenty of good-looking poor people in the world.
We're them!
I mean, poor, yes. Good-looking, from my point of view, I can't...
You're good-looking, bitch. Come on now.
I look in the mirror, and the mirror shatters and runs away in lots of little pieces.
Lie. I'll be a mirror from now on, it's alright.
How many mirrors do I have in my house, Noah?
2.
And
they're in the bathroom.
Yes. And one's only there to shave, and one is a cupboard door.
I've only just put windows. I don't have windows.
I have lived in a bricked-up shack since I was 12.
They'll never know.
Never seen the daylight. Anyway.
Yes, handsomeness.
And while he wasn't wearing the split robes Hemmington wore, Viv saw one of the stag pins on his tailored shirt. "Saw you through the window and I just had to stop by," he replied. "Haven't seen you in a while, Tandri. I'd almost think you were avoiding me." "And you'd be right. Well, I'm only here as a customer. So we can call this an intervention of fate. You just said you saw me through the window. If fate intervenes, it'll be to turn you around and send you right back out. Now, don't be like that. A succubus like you? You can feel this." He gestured between them. "This attraction. I know you can." Tandri looked stricken and her expression became deliberately neutral. "Kellen, there is no attraction. There never has been. I think you should leave." "But I haven't bought anything yet," he protested, a smile in his voice.
He's a dick.
Yep.
Oh, I hate him. Love your voice, though. Sorry.
It's all right. "I don't think we have anything you want," said Viv, approaching the front of the shop and looming, arms crossed. Kellen turned his attention to her, and his easy smile vanished, replaced by something sharper. "I don't remember involving you in this conversation." Viv was mildly surprised that he hadn't quailed at the sight of her. "It's my shop," said Viv evenly. "I serve who I want, when I want. I don't think I want to serve you, so I'll ask you to leave." Kellen stared at her for a moment, a sneer developed. "I guess you haven't yet met the madrigal." I've just mucked that up, but never mind. "At some point, everybody around here serves them. Which means that sooner or later, you're going to be paying your dues to me." "Oh. So you're his errand boy. I thought that was the man with the very fine hat." He was about to resort when Amity emerged from behind Viv and strolled with a deadly grace. She settled beside Tandri and indifferently licked a massive paw. Kelly blinked but recovered his sneer. Viv couldn't decide if he was brave or stupid. Side point, not mutually exclusive.
What?
You can be brave and stupid. You don't
That's
have to be one or
true.
the other.
That's true.
I'll leave for now, he said. But you'll be seeing me again. He looked at Tandri, again with the soft proprietary He looked at Tandri again with that soft proprietary smile. Strile, fuck's sake. But you and me, we'll be catching up later. Looking forward to it. Fate. He left. Tandri released a slow breath. What was that about? Asked Viv. He was a student at Ackers. He had an... Tandri searched for the words. An unhealthy obsession with me. When you took classes there for... personal interests? Yes. Guess he's working for the head of the local HUDs too. Seems education didn't lead to better things. Oh, I'm not surprised at all, Tandri muttered darkly. We'll keep him out. The succubus crouched next to the dire cat. Or maybe Amity needs a snack. Are you hungry, girl? Amity purred like a rockfall. That evening, Tandri left long enough to collect some blankets and a big goose-down pillow. She and Viv put together a makeshift bed in the back corner of the shop for the dire cat. The next time Amity reappeared, she stalked over to the rumpled pile, patted it experimentally with one enormous forepaw, and then strolled away, but they left the bed.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. It's
Yeah.
like, no, where's the pile of clothes I can
Where's
sleep
that
in?
box or piece of paper on the floor that I can sit in?
It's alright, you don't even need to do that. You just need to put tape on the floor in a square and they sit in it.
Oh, did they? Oh, I'll have to try that.
It's like with ants. If you put it on the floor in front of them, they get trapped in the thing for whatever reason. Don't know why.
I think it's to do with the pheromones because they leave a trail of pheromones.
Possibly. I don't know. I
But
don't know that much about insects.
I can tell you loads of things about insects.
I don't want to know about bugs.
Okay.
Thimble rapped on the front door as the two of them prepared to open. In his hands, he clutched a cloth-wrapped lump that trailed wisps of steam. Viv smelled something warm and yeasty and sweet, and thought she recognised cinnamon too.
No, cinnamon, cinnamon. I spelled it wrong.
Okay.
I'll explain in a bit.
Okay. He scuttled indoors. Tandri emerged from the pantry with a bag of beans and a carafe of milk, inhaling deeply. What is that wonderful smell? The ratkin glanced anxiously between them, then slid his wrapped bundle onto the countertop. Viv pointed at it. May I? Thimble nodded hesitantly. Carefully unfolding the cloth, Viv revealed a roll as big as her fist, almost too large to imagine eating. That probably suggests you don't eat it all at once. Soft bread wound in a spiral with dark sugar and cinnamon nestled between the rings, and a thick, creamy glaze frosting the top and dripping down the sides. You okay there, Noah? Tandri was right. The scent was unbelievably amazing. You made this? Asked Viv, impressed. Did, whispered the ratkin again, with the little bobbing head, his hands clasped before his flour-dusted apron. Viv and Tandri shared a glance, and then Viv delicately tore a piece from the enormous roll, sniffed deeply, and popped it in her mouth. She closed her eyes and made an involuntary noise of pleasure. It was easily the most delicious thing she'd had in, well, maybe ever. Good gods, she murmured around the mouthfuls. Tandri, try it. Tandri peeled off a piece and obliged. As she chewed, Viv could feel some kind of atmospheric shift around Tandri. A sultry radiance, and her tail lashed back and forth in elegant loops. Viv and the ratkin watched her chew, rapt. when the succubus opened her eyes again. Her irises were huge, cheeks flushed. She looked dreamily at the ratkin. You're hired. I can't do a woman's husky voice, so you get the deep voice. Her her voice had gone husky. She startled and glanced at Viv. The aura dissipated. Wait, that is why he's here, isn't he? Viv turned to Thimble. How would you like to bake these here every day? He nodded and shifted from foot to foot as though he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. 4 silver a week, Viv prompted. She looked at Tandri to make sure there would be no objection. The succubus nodded, eyes big, and made a yes, get on with it, flapping with her hands. Thimble nodded an affirmative, and he stretched out his nose, and for the first time uttered more than one word in his silky whisper. Free coffee. Viv offered a hand. Thimble, you can have all the coffee you want. Right. So, was that how much, the same amount that Tandri was being paid?
Yeah, 4 silvers. Same amount.
And what was the exchange rate for silvers and coppers? Because this doesn't
In D&D, 10 copper.
No, not D&D, in this. It was established earlier on in the book.
Oof.
I'm
That's
just
the
curious,
question.
because right now, this business is not going to be making a profit.
Well, if you think about it, it's like half a copper for a coffee.
Yeah.
And then a full copper for a latte. But now they're bringing in the pastries, and then they're going to get the iced coffee in, thinking-wise.
Yeah.
It's a cute book. It doesn't make sense with the money.
I'm just quickly looking through trying to find the exchange rate, just out of curiosity. I mean, businesses do start as loss leaders anyway. But
I mean, yeah. Point.
oh, hang on. Doo-ba-doo. I don't think it had it for the coppers in silvers. Okay.
But if you think, because it's basically Dungeons and Dragons, it's 10 coppers for a silver, and then 10 silvers for like a gold, and whatnot.
Yeah. I don't think it was that, though. I think it was different from what.
4 silvers is a lot. If you think about it like D&D terms, 4 silvers bake.
Well,
in a
in
new
D&D
building.
terms, there's I hope you figured this out for our business, by the way. But there is actually a amount that you could live on a week based on your backstory, and you need that to be.
Yeah, we have that with Call of Cthulhu. When we do Call of Cthulhu, you have the how much you make, how much you can have like on the person, how much you make on the
So there is actually a thing to do with that in D&D. I just can't remember.
We're gonna have to find that.
I'll be able to find that. Living, nope. Living
nope.
armor.
My eyes. Went to go on Goodreads.
Your eyes need to go on Goodreads.
Yeah, well, I hope Goodreads see what percentage we're at.
About 30%, I think.
Wait, I've got it. 1 second. 35%.
So, by the time we hit July, we might have finished it.
Every Friday. It's true.
Other options and fit. No, I don't want that. Hang on. I'm curious now. I'm going to find it. Oh, dark gift. I'll find it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Are we cool with ending it there and then continuing next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Well, we've seen Tandri have a moment though, so that's something new.
Oh yeah, she definitely had a moment, and she definitely has a history.
Oh yeah, but right, I just want to know when the fucking romance is gonna happen. Come on now, her and the orc. It is a romance between her and the orc, right?
Yes.
I
only know that because I ran forward like a lot of pages and just randomly looked at something.
Okay.
So, I'd assume about halfway through the book.
I mean, we're nearly there.
So
that's true. It's very slow pace, which is fine.
No, it's not a slow pace. It's just because we're reading out loud. It's taking 3 times as long to read.
That's true. We're only reading it once a week.
Yeah, rather than one sitting.
Yeah.
An hour's sitting, you'd normally read 100 pages.
I would read. Yeah, I would breeze through that.
Yeah, and we're 2 hours in, realistically, with breaks. So
yeah,
today.
Yeah,
but
I like that we're reading together. I think it's cute.
Yes, I'm, however, not reading the other books with you.
No, I'll do that. It's fine.
But it's fine because I'm going to give you more recommendations when we come off in a second.
Yeah. Sounds
So,
good.
But thank you for having me again.
No, thank you for coming and joining and reading it with me. I appreciate you and your voice. I thought you were going to say something, then I was like...
No. I am a good boy.
Are you a good boy, though?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Night. Have fun. Make good decisions in life.
Or don't.
I don't. Right. Bye. That's not the right one. There we go.